everybody doing? Today we're going to do a little tech series. I'm going to show you how to repair wires. There are a couple different ways you can do it correctly. But that's what we're going to do today. It's not going to take very long, but I'm going to show you how to properly do a wiring repair. So if you're new to the channel, subscribe, hit the bell, give me a thumbs up after the video is done. So let's get into it. Wiring repairs, there's multiple tools you can use. These are actually my favorite. They're Nippics for actually cutting the wire. Makes a really clean cut. All the tools I show you, I'll put links down in the description to where you can purchase them. That's the cutters. These are snap-on. They cut. They do the butt connector style, and they will also do some stripping there. These are actually an Amazon purchase, Titan. These are also for butt connectors. Ratcheting. These are actually Kent Moore special tools. I actually have a Mac version that I will show you. These are for a very good mechanical connection where you can solder and then heat shrink, and it's a very small package when it's all said and done. Let's see if I can find. Alright, here are the Mac equivalent. They're not ratcheting, but they are way less expensive than Kent Moore. Soldering gun, and this is great if you're doing something off the vehicle. If you're doing something on the vehicle where you're repairing something going to a module, especially airbag circuits, you do not want to use a plug-in soldering iron. The plug-in soldering irons actually work by creating a short that gets hot, and you can actually deploy airbags or backfeed a module and short it out. If you're doing something like that, you can actually use a butane soldering iron. This is Portasol. I'm not a big fan of this one. I'm actually a bigger fan of the Power Probe one. So the one in the description will be the one for the Power Probe. I'm not going to recommend this one. Power Probe seems to work a lot better. So that's for butane. And then for heat shrink and that, I just use this. It's a cheap Power Probe butane torch. So now we'll get to the different components you can use to repair the wires. Alright, here are some different options that you can do to repair wires. These are just your regular butt connectors. I put these in here just to show that I do not like these. You can wrap them with tape. You can probably get big enough heat shrink to go around it. But for a little bit more money, you can actually get ones that have heat shrink already on them. So once they're done, once you've crimped them, you can heat them up and they will actually seal where the connection is. That way you don't have to worry about mushing it down in there. These, a lot of people use them on radios, on indoor wiring. My concern with that is if you ever left a window down when it rains, or slam the brakes on and spilled a pop, you don't know where water or moisture or something is going to get to that wire. And if you repair a wire, you never want to have to repair it again. So I don't like those. I'm going to throw those aside. I'm not going to show you how to use them because I don't like them. These are actually used by General Motors for doing airbag wiring repairs. I have found them great for doing other wiring repairs. Then you heat shrink them. So I'm going to show you those. Regular heat shrink, and then this actually has a glue or sealer inside that when you shrink it down, it actually will swell out and give you a pretty much bulletproof seal. Alright guys, for this I'm going to use 14 gauge wire. Nothing fancy. Cut off a couple pieces, and then find the 14 gauge spot, just like that. Just like that. And then I twist the wire. Some people say twist, some people don't say don't twist. I don't care. I've always twisted, never had an issue with it. So I'll twist the connector. You can do it on the first one if it's in vehicle. The second one you probably will have a hard time doing. But if you get it twisted tight enough, it'll just push in, just like that. And then these, you just put it in there where the groove is, squeeze it. It'll actually crimp it and indent it. I will show you once we get done with this one, and then these already have heat shrink on them, so all you have to do is take the butane torch. It's got a little base soaking stand. Turn it on. And obviously don't get your fingers in front of it. And I just start going around it. Don't want to stand on one spot too long because you can actually pretty much catch it on fire and burn it. I mean, it probably, as long as it's not completely torched, would be fine, but alright. Just like that, you did a repair at the butt connector. Now for soldering, there's two ways you can do this. You can do it without a mechanical connection and just use the solder, which I'll show you first. So I already have them stripped down. I will take them and kind of intertwine them. I don't loop them too much, but intertwine them like that. I don't want to put it on there because I need that. We'll use that. It's easier when you have a lot more wire too. You can actually have it up, or in vehicle it's easier too, but actually we'll just do it like this. I put the soldering iron on the bottom side to let the wires get hot. And once the heat transfers through, just like that. And I'll start taking solder. Let it cool off. There they're soldered together. I'm going to wait to heat shrink them until it cools down. So while it's cooling down, I'll show you the other option. The other option is these little terminals here that I showed you earlier. I will put the part number for these. You have to go to a GM dealership, or you might be able to find them online, but I'll put the part number in the description. But put them in like this, and hopefully these will fit. We usually do smaller wires with these. Tested it earlier, I think it'll work. Once you got it started, feed your wire through one side. Feed through the other side. And just like that, this one's not too pretty, but you can see how it wrapped around the back side. So that's already secured. Let's move that one. Then these actually have, which I'll try to get a good view of it. There's actually a slight hole on top. If you look at a good one, there's that hole on top. That is actually where you can feed your solder through when it heats up. So I'm going to reset the camera and then I'll solder that one and show you. That's just straight, regular, soldered. And this is with that crimp. I mean, as of right now, they're both really, really strong. I would prefer this method if you're doing something where the wires might be pulled on, like under a seat, something like that. But I like this option better. I actually like soldering better than the butt connector, which is right there. But let me get these two heat shrinked, and then I'll show you what the two different heat shrinks look like. There's the butt connector, shrink down. It's blue, but I mean it is sealed. This is not a bad connection. Some manufacturers actually will use this as an approved method of repairing a wire. This was just the straight regular soldered wire, and this has the regular heat shrink on it. But as you can see, looks good. And then this is the one that we use the other metal connector on, and this has the sealed heat shrink. And you can actually see the, after it shrunk, the sealant coming out of it. So that's that.